my name is Josh Cahill. I'm one of the most watched aviation YouTubers with over 250 million views. Won a couple of awards on my work as well. And taking huge pride in holding airlines accountable for the promises they make. And I think this is what I'm primarily known for. Somebody who loves airplanes.
Probably not something you would have envisioned when you were thinking about as a kid, because I don't know if airline reviewing was seen as a career path, but I guarantee people like Josh Cahill and a couple other YouTubers have made this a potential career. But first of all, I'd like to give a warm welcome to my guest, Josh Cahill. This is his second appearance on the podcast. He is an extremely busy person, so I genuinely appreciate, Josh, you making time for the podcast, and glad to say that we'll be releasing this episode in video. So safe to say you just flew in this morning. Where are you today?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Glad to be back. Glad to see you do well. I landed this morning at 5 a.m. and you said it's a video, so if people think I look a little bit old or tired, that is because I landed at 5 a.m. in Caracas, Venezuela, and I was flying Conviasa, the flag carrier of the country. Which is heavily sanctioned, flies some very interesting planes, but I think that is what puts a huge smile on my face and my viewers' face whenever I find these aviation gems, airlines that aren't as popular. And I think apart from like the whole holding airlines accountable and doing airline reviews, the other section that I do in my videos is to like feature airlines from the most obscene, like obscure places in the world, and I think Conviasa is one of them. And it was a great flight on an Airbus A340-600 from Mexico City to Caracas, and yeah, it was a great flight. And I'll be flying Cubana, the flag carrier of Cuba, on Saturday on a Tupolev 204, and I think that's going to be another aviation gem featuring on my channel.
So safe to say you're not that afraid of flying. You're not afraid of a little bit of turbulence. Can I assume that?
You'd be surprised. Like sometimes when I fly airlines in countries that don't have that great of a safety record. I remember flying in Afghanistan on a really old Airbus A310, and it's very old. It's very old hardware, but and we were hit by really severe turbulences, and I was like, I don't feel good about this, knowing how old the plane is. But and then with the recent news, like I think everyone has seen Singapore Airlines, what happened there. I'm generally pretty good. Generally pretty good, but I always tell myself the chance to die in your sleep is a lot higher than dying on an airplane crash. So if somebody's listening and is afraid of flying, that's how you can tell yourself that you're going to be okay.
Yeah, I wanted to ask this, Josh, because it's somewhat in the back of my mind. We just recently seen the unfortunate crash in Nepal, and some of the countries in the world have very spotty safety records and some very old fleet and maintenance issues. And you seem to have flown pretty much everywhere in the world, including, as you mentioned, some very interesting carriers. You must feel the difference in the air, knowing your experience of flying. But don't you get a little apprehensive when you get on a flight, say perhaps in Nepal or maybe in some other part of the world where the safety record is not that great?
Well, of course, it is in the back of your mind, especially when you see the footage of the recent crash in Nepal, for example, or in Brazil, I believe that ATR that literally fell out of the sky. It is always there, but I try not to think about it too much. I mean, the most critical times of a flight is takeoff and landing. Soon as you reach out a cruising altitude, you're pretty much in safe hands. But these things are part of the job, but then they're very extremely rare. They're like cars crash every day. And so do other forms of transportation. But when you're on a plane and things go south, the chance to survive is usually really low. And I think that is what stacks in the head of our mind, where we think it's severe. The consequences are severe if something happens, and that's why the world talks about it. That's why it makes headlines. Nobody talks about those 25,000, 30,000 flights a day that take off and land safely. I think, but this is just how the nature of us. We do see these kind of things, and we always associate the worst with flying, because we know if something happens, the chance that we get out of this alive are very low. But you got to try to remind yourself that it is the most safe mode of transportation. And by the end of the day, I always have faith in the pilots, because the thing is that we all forget is whether you're in Nepal or you're in South Sudan or you're in America, safety standards are universal, and you all have to obey by the same rules. And I think that that is important, and to know that the safety aspects are very high, and that airlines and pilots are highly trained to avoid these accidents.
Okay. All right, good to get that out of the way, and we'll move on to a little bit of more. I know you have a flight very soon, so we'll move to more pleasant topics. Josh, one of the things I enjoy about your channel, and again, I personally didn't think of an airline review or an airline reviewer before I came across your channel and a couple of others, was it holds the airlines accountable. What was your first thought when you got into airline reviewing? Was it something where an incident happened to you? How did you get into this industry is what I want to start with. And then how did you decide that, okay, I wanna go this route where I don't want to just review the flight, but I also want to get them to, match them up to their standards, which they claim on their advertising?
Well, like, my story is not very inspiring how I got into aviation. I always loved airplanes. I was very into military aviation before, because I love history and I love to see the beginnings of flying and as such. And I was always like really inspired and fascinated by flying. And as old as I get, I worked in the aviation industry as well. And I just, as a hobby, I love to document my travels, and that's what I did. I lived in China, and I worked for an airline, and I had to travel for business occasionally. I was just like filming it for fun, and then I put it up on YouTube, and people were watching it. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is like, you get attention, you like it, people start watching your channel. And then at one point it was 2017. My contract was just running out in China, and I had a bit of money saved, and I had 5,000 subscribers on my channel. And I just thought like, oh, look, before I get into a new job or whatever, let me just travel around and let's do some videos. Yeah, and then I realized that in the beginning I did team up with airlines. Some of them invited me because I had a blog. I was writing about aviation before. That's actually initially started. I was writing about it, and then I was invited by airlines, but I felt like, I'm just being, a PR piece. Like, I'm just telling them what they want me to tell. It's very boring. People don't want to see this, and I don't want to be that classical like influencer. And I always had like a kind of like a sense. I was always even like when I was a little kid already, I had that sense that I needed to stand up if somebody in the classroom was bullied or something was right. I was like a little bit like that. And then I thought like, good, if I pay for my own flights and I know what the flight costs, I can put an expectation to it. I feel like this comes out of my own pocket, my hard earned money. And then I started doing airline reviews and just being being honest. And I think a lot of influencers are afraid that they lose opportunities when they start talking negatively about something. Oh my God, if I say now something bad about Emirates, they might not invite me ever to an inaugural flight or the delivery or whatever that is. But that wasn't really like my motivation. So as I started more and more posting videos, and of course some of them got attention, and people were like, wow, he's harsh in his opinion, or he's like he's the anti-influencer. And then I started to like take really huge pride in it. And then I would also see what changes come, you know, when you publish a video. Just recently I flew Iraqi Airways, and a very expensive flight, subpar product. Like it was awful. Like for the money, there was no. There was an economy class meal. There was no blanket. There was no headphones. There was no service. There was nothing. It was just like terrible. Video was published, had 250,000 views, and then it was trending in social media as well, or even on national TV. And so 2 days later, somebody sends me a snap from an Iraqi Airways flight, how they have changed the catering because of my video, you know. So people think, oh, God, is he complaining? Why is he like, well, of course it's first world problems, you know. But creating these reviews and holding them accountable and see the changes that I am like that I've contributed, that I see like, wow, the airline sees it and there's so much attention, let's do something. Because, you know, it's like sometimes, you know, like CEOs and the big management, they come together in the morning, they have their meetings, they sit there and they think like, how can we save more money? How can we cost cut even more? How can we make our airline even more profitable? So this is how they sit there, how to provide less or charge us more, you know? And I think we need an opposition to this. You know, we need people, especially now post-pandemic times, where airlines trying to be cheap. I think it's important that we have voices like myself, or there's other YouTube reviewers, to be the opposition to that, and tell airlines, hey, don't do this, don't take this away from us, don't be cheap, you know, give something back for the money. Because, you know, the CEO of Delta Airlines, I think he goes home with 40 million US dollars a year, you know. And I'm not a socialist in any sense. I'm very I believe in a free market, you know. But, you know, if they do this, why can't we all get together, the little man, and raise our voices and hold airlines accountable? And I'm not worried if I'm not going to get invited to an inaugural flight or an event. This is not my motivation. But seeing all the changes through other videos as well that I've done in the past, and what positive influence it has, makes me really proud. And it shows us how important it is, you know, instead of just being an influencer and say yes to a free flight and become a PR mouthpiece for the airline, I'd rather take a different route and use my voice to improve flying for all of us.
Yeah, I appreciate you going into detail on that one. And it reminds me of the last time we spoke, where we went into detail about the time where you had the big issue with Singapore Airlines, and how you became the villain, the national villain, so to speak, the country versus Josh Cahill. And obviously, your last video was about flying Singapore Airlines. So I had asked you that question, are you okay to travel with them again? And you said, anytime I have the chance to do. So you are a man of your word, and representing the little man out there. I still want to give you a title. Feel free to use it. I would like to call you Controversial Cahill. I think it suits you. And you can even use it on your keychains if you want. So Controversial Cahill suits you, just because you got banned by a few airlines. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Luxair, they issued you an apology, so you're okay with them. But which airlines are you still banned on? Is it only Qatar Airways at this moment of time, or is there any other airline besides Qatar?
I mean, it's only Qatar Airways. You know, most of the airlines, they take feedback very seriously, and I think, well, I mean, controversial. I mean, I don't know whether it's a suitable title, because I think once you are being loud and you're trying to do these kind of things, because some people, they sit there and they won't understand it. You know, some people think like, why is he? Maybe he's like creating attention, or he wants to do this, or he wants.
I say that with context, though. So I say you're not creating content for the sake. Yeah. So maybe don't roll out the keychains then.
Yeah. No, I mean, like it's when people say controversial, like I feel like if you cross the traffic light when it's red, it's already controversial. Everybody has, and everybody should have their opinion on that. But I think, like, of course, I'm loud, and I voice my my concerns, but I think somebody has to do it, and other do it as well. And of course, people look at us. People think like, oh, they're flying for a living. Why are they like look at them, first world problems? They're having a flat bed on a flight. But there's people who save all their life and they go on a honeymoon and they fly, I don't know, British Airways to the like Barbados or whatever, and this is their time of their life where they want to look being looked after, and they want to get something for their buck, and I think this is very important, that we like spend a lot of money and we deserve to get what we pay for, and that is my voice. And if somebody says, hey, you're controversial, so be it, but the numbers are send testament for the work I do. The awards that I've won, like I've like got a lot of recognition for my work, which I'm very proud of. I do a lot of other things. We were able to save lives to my video. When you look at the all Afghanistan flight, the female flight, we were able to get the crew out of Afghanistan because of the videos. And I think when I talk to a lot of industry professionals, they do 100% understand what I do. Hey, but to the common man, who flies economy class all the time, and he thinks, hey, he's complaining about that his flat bed isn't 100% flat. I understand their concerns 100% as well. It's first world problems. But no, like speaking about airlines being banned, that was only Qatar Airways, solely based on the reason that I gave them a bad review. They wanted to make it look different, but I have been over 200 plus airlines, and most of them, they don't believe in censorship. I think this is where we're all on the same page. We believe in freedom of speech, and we do respect each other. In Qatar, things might be a little bit different, but I'm sure like them having me banned resulted in a terrible PR disaster for them. And the world was on my side with that one, which I'm like very, very happy and proud of. And by the end of the day, perhaps they will reconsider their decision.
I saw the flight review you did on the Iraqi Airways flight. Safe to say you're not a big fan of the cabin crew, which completely went missing throughout the flight. And exactly what you mentioned, Josh. And that's why I think in my podcast we maintain a consistency in terms of the guests we invite. Your volume in terms of YouTube is quite big. But we had invited you a while back as well. But for me, it's the authenticness. I can see clearly the distinction between you and some others. And I loved another. I'm gonna take your quote. Is your bad reviews keeps one of our friends, Sam Chui, quite busy, and he immediately has to. This was said by you, so I'm just quoting you on this, and I'm not trying to go for the clickbait, but I'm just saying that there are a lot of other YouTubers out there who are working with the airlines, and that's not something you do, and that's why I love having you on the podcast.
No, thank you. I mean, like, there's nothing that is that I don't talk about. I'm making a public statement, and I'm very happy to publicly respond to these kind of things. I'm happy to meet all my critics or who doesn't like me. I have nothing to hide. I'm always very open, and and I said, like, after Qatar Airways banned me, the airline itself needed to work on its image. And what did they do? They call up Sam Chui. If it's morally okay, ethnic, like, if he thinks that's fine to like give them a voice after they have been banning and censoring one of your colleagues. I'm always saying, if Sam gets somewhere in troubles, or he goes to one of the countries, or he gets banned or whatever, well, we might have our differences, but I'll be the first on the plane to make sure that he's going to be okay, by the end of the day. I would not do this. I would not go and promote an airline that has been mistreating or banning one of my colleagues. But this is something that he needs to decide for himself. I know him very well, and he had made statements about me. I have invited him personally to speak on video on my channel about differences that we have. Obviously, he has declined it because he he doesn't want to talk about it publicly, I guess, because he knows that doesn't have a strong argument, and he knows that the claims that me and many others make about him being a PR piece for airlines is true. But I'm happy to have a conversation with him on camera, a podcast or whatever it is, and we can talk about our differences. And I think that's my stand on that. But I'm happy to call him out on these kind of things. That's also like part of the job, but in no mean spirit. I've met him recently on an Air India flight, and we shook hands and we're fine. But yeah, we, as you said, everybody has a different approach.
Yeah. You seem to do an insane amount of flight. And I don't want to speculate on your age, but do you think you can sustain doing this amount of flights, let's say 2 or 3 years down the line? Again, I saw briefly you mentioned in a clip that you might be kind of paring it down a little bit. Can you just give us a little bit of insight? Like, let's say, where would Josh Cahill, will you still be reviewing in, let's say, 2 or 3 years time, or will you cut down the number of flights you take per year?
I've always told myself, once I reach 1 million subscribers and I get that beautiful golden play button, then I will retire. Obviously, it is a tough job, and it's the flying, the fatigue. And speaking to all my other friends, they feel exactly the same. When I talk to Dan, or like just speaking of Sam, we had a conversation. He feels exhausted. My friend Noel does. And it's not just the flying, the physical aspect, of course, it's demanding, but then there's cabin crew who fly a lot more than we do. And but it is also being in the public eye, and especially when you have a voice, and there is people who will try to hurt you and they harm you, and that is something that I've noticed as well. This is probably the thing that would make me want to do something else in the more likely than the fatigue, because it's the pressure as well, that comes with it. But you learn, and you become more mature. You become stronger mentally. You learn how to think, how to put things into perspective. Maybe next year, 2 years, I still be flying. I don't know, but at one point you also run out of airlines to fly. At one point, and there's only so much Emirates reviews people are willing to watch. Things get boring after some time. Right now, I can tell you I feel good when I go on a flight like yesterday, Conviasa, or knowing on Saturday I'll be flying Cubana on the Tupolev. Those are great moments where I'm like super pumped and motivated and happy. If I will still be doing this in 3 years' time, I don't know, and then we'll see. I think time will tell, but for now, I'm sure I'm still going to do next year, and what comes after, we'll see. One day I want to have family and kids as well, I guess, at one point. And that's really hard to do, especially when you fly. So we'll see. I think time will tell, but for now, I'm still feeling kind of okay. I don't need to be wheelchair boarding yet.
I think based on your current growth rate, I envision you hitting the million mark, not in the, I think in the fairly near future. So I still hope you continue flying, but perhaps cut it down because your current pace is just insane. I just get tired watching your videos because it's not just getting on the flight itself, it's the time zone, security, immigration, and on top of that, you're actually recording, you're doing your famous loo reviews, which sometimes I don't really enjoy, especially if I'm having a meal, but that's just my personal opinion. And for me, when you're having a camera and you have somebody next to you, there you are conscious of that, and try as you might. So my hats off. I think sometimes people just assume it's an easy job, but I would say that try doing this as something like a career where you're doing it day in, day out, and I would envision the burnout rate would start kicking in. So you must really, really love aviation, which you obviously do. So Josh, I want to ask you a couple of interesting questions. I haven't heard you answer these, so you might have. I haven't watched every single one of your videos, so let me throw you a curveball. Where is the destination you still haven't visited yet, which is on your bucket list?
That is a good question. What's the destination? I've been to pretty much all the places that I wanted to go when I was young. I've been to all 7 continents.
Yeah.
I've been just earlier this year, I went to Tristan da Cunha, which is, if you ask me right now, there isn't probably much that I can think of, but I would love to probably travel more consciously in the future. When I said, hey, I retire and from all this, and perhaps if I go travel again, um, that I might do it more consciously, and spend more time at the places, do safaris, do things, soak them in a lot more. Even though I'm here in Venezuela, like I have so much work to do editing wise. I
Yeah.
got a podcast, like, and I have a meeting. In between, I have to eat, I have to take a shower. I have to recharge my batteries and get everything prepared for the next trip, do some research. It does look very glamorous, but in real life, it's a lot harder. But if there's any place that I would love to still visit, there's nothing that comes to my mind because I really like ticked off that bucket list that I had. Um, so I can't really think of something right now because I've literally seen everything that I wanted to see.
Have you been to Al Ula in Saudi Arabia?
And no,
Okay. That's
I've been to Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
yeah. That might be just a very interesting, and I guarantee from a viewership point of view, will be a very interesting video. So just some food for thought that Saudi Arabia is always going to be interesting anyways, but I wouldn't mind seeing Josh Cahill visit Al Ula.
I will definitely put it. Ironically, I'm going to Saudi Arabia next month for a meeting, but it's only going to be like at Jeddah. But I do love Saudi Arabia. I love the path that they are on, and I really hope that they're gonna get to host the World Cup as well. And they're doing a great job, the Saudis, and a lot of great, interesting things coming up there.
Yeah. What's your sleep schedule like? So, for example, you landed in the morning today. I don't know how you're managing to do this podcast with little or no sleep, but normally, are you able to sleep when you land in or when you check into your hotel right away, or are you still working on the previous time zone?
I'm still a bit jet lagged at the moment. So yesterday I woke up at 2 a.m. and because I was in Mexico City, I was just in Africa. I just came from Africa, and so I'm still in African time zone. I woke up at 2 a.m. But like sometimes there's no point like fighting the jet lag. Luckily, I function really well on very little sleep. I love to sleep, but I also have a trauma from my childhood that I can't sleep past 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. I come from a very difficult or very strict German household, and my dad would make sure that I'll be up before he is, and that kind of stuck with me until the rest of the day. I can't sleep in. That's really difficult for me, but I do love to sleep. But yeah, I think that is a problem that I have, that I'm really like the as a half German, that is like somehow in me, this work ethic, and I'm like, I'm very very duty oriented. So yeah, like now I've just slept for 5 hours. I feel great, to be honest, but I know that was a long trip and it's coming to an end. And I know that Saturday's trip is going to be just as exciting. But no, I can strongly recommend to always get a lot of sleep. And but I don't take any like substances or things that help me to fall asleep, because I know a lot of people do that. But I'm very cautious about what I consume, and I don't really like to cheat the system or cheat your body, because that will backfire eventually. Sometimes I get great sleeps, but sometimes you're still on such a high, because you had a great flight, or you land and you open your emails and there's something exciting in there and it pushes you, and your body creates that adrenaline. So it's a very hectic kind of lifestyle, but I do try to look after my health as well. But yeah,
So
get enough sleep, guys.
are you able to completely fall asleep on an airplane and sleep for, let's say if you're on a flat bed, would you be able to sleep for 3 or 4 hours as in if you were in a normal bed?
Surprisingly, I can't sleep in business class. I've never had a good sleeping experience in business class. I sleep a lot much better in economy class, but I think that is just because it's a lot harder to go on a 10-hour or 14-hour economy class flight and you want it to end, So you just think as more as I sleep, the further the faster I get to my destination, and you just do it. And like at some point there's nothing to review anymore, and then you just try to get a solid sleep. But surprisingly, I sleep really well on economy class flights. I do not sleep really well on business class flights. But it might also be the thing is because you spend a lot of money on those business class flights, and you think like, hey, if I sleep now, like let's say it's a 9-hour flight, and I sleep like 4 hours, what did I pay for those 4 hours? You
I
just sort of
need to
wine
have
and
my
dine
second
and like,
filling of the caviar. So if I sleep now, I'm gonna miss on that. So
exactly,
yeah.
exactly, exactly. And speaking of caviar and giving airline shits, Emirates now offers unlimited caviar in fast class. Shout out to Emirates. This is what we want to see. Like not sitting together. How can we like maybe remove 2 grams of caviar for each passengers? This is how some airlines look at it. But then Emirates was like, no, let those boys eat as much caviar as they want. Like just to bring it up, a little side note. But yeah, of course, you want to enjoy it, and I love a good daylight flight, and I love to indulge there sometimes but also like I do a lot of flights in economy. Just for the record, most of my flights are in economy class, so it's still something special for me. And I was just flying South African Airways like 3 days ago in business class. That was really nice, and everybody who knows South Africa, they have amazing wine. So
Oh,
I was like there, like do the wine tasting, and I was like, can't sleep, Josh. If you sleep now,
that must have been a
you're
good
never gonna
flight,
get back.
whether you slept or not, for sure.
It was a fantastic flight. It
Yeah.
was a fantastic flight. I love South African Airways. I'm glad they are back. And I was flying from Cape Town to Sao Paulo. And like I can strongly recommend everyone to visit Cape Town once in a lifetime. It's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. South Africans are amazing people. I love the continent. I am a huge fan of their mentality and their way of life. And then you fly. That airline, and they have a fantastic wine list, and you have your flatbed. Great, they have a great hard product, and it's how good life can get sometimes. You fly 8 or 9 hours over the South Atlantic Ocean. How amazing is that? Think about it, like how incredible that is.
Josh, I wanted to ask you one more question, which was on my mind. Do you get recognized, let's say in out of 10 flights, do the crew recognize you? How many times in out of 10 flights? Would it be 7? Would it be 5 on average? Just because I feel that because they know Josh Cahill's on board, perhaps that will also, and it's no fault of yours, but I'm just saying because it's you and if I'm cabin crew, I'm on my best behavior. Let's put it this way. But is it something which has happened more over the years? I would assume yes, but it would be interesting to know from your point of view.
Of course, it does happen. It does happen quite frequently. Like speaking of the South African flights, the cabin manager was giving out hot towels, and then she gave me that stare. And like after like doing this for 7 years, when somebody recognizes you. And then she came 5 minutes later. She came and said, "Josh, I love your videos. I watch all of them, and I'm very happy to have you on board." That doesn't necessarily guarantee you a good flight, to be honest, as well. Like sometimes they think they know who you are. Sometimes they think it doesn't like really like some. I feel like, of course, some airlines they use it in an advantage, but having the experience that I have, 700 plus 800 flights, 200 different airlines. It's really easy to tell when they put on a show
Okay.
and when not. I can tell you who's a genuine service person and who's not, who is got this job because they love hospitality, and who people just here for the layover. I can 100% tell you. And I think that was with the Iraqi Airways flight, for
Now,
example.
I was going to make that point. Safe to say, nobody at
Yeah.
Iraqi Airways recognized you when they were having their coffee
No,
in the
no,
corner. They didn't know who Josh
no,
Cahill
no.
was.
No, they had no idea. Like it's great. I mean, and nobody needs to know who I am. Like, and by the end of the day, I'm just like um, an individual with a camera who does flight reviews. But no, like if you could put everything together, and like it's not like that you get an amazing flight once they recognize who you are. For example, I'm on the watch list with Singapore Airlines. Singapore Airlines has my name down as soon as I fly, they know exactly who I am. But what they are told, and this is the great that I have so much behind the scenes access. What is they told? Don't make him feel or that you know who he is. This is how they look at it.
Okay.
That is their briefing. That's what they tell him. We know he's on board. Don't give him any extra attention. Just do what you do, because that is how we might get away with this, and might get for the possibly best review. Airlines do their homeworks as well. Some they don't, and I think this is also part of the game. And sometimes out of 10 flights, I don't know, 3 flights, 4 flights. Sometimes I go on flights. I was on a TUI flight recently from Cabo Verde to London, and went on the flight, uneventful. And then I got a message the next day on my Instagram. It's like, Josh, you were on my flight yesterday, right? I wasn't sure it was you or not. These kind of things happen as well. But like if I fly in South America, nobody knows who I am. It doesn't happen very often, because it's a definitely they don't consume English content.
Right.
In Asia, with most of the airlines, pretty much known. I fly British Airways. There's not a British Airways flight where the crew doesn't know me.
Yeah.
So these kind of things happen, and does influence the thing. But a flight review is so much more than just being recognized. There's a hard product. There's like how they still deliver the service and all these kind of things. It's not that easy. It's not a cheat code. Definitely not. Yeah.
Final question. What is your favorite lounge?
Oh, what's my favorite lounge? I think I was always really inspired by is it the Pier in Hong Kong? Cafe Pacific has a pretty good lounge. For me, what makes a good lounge is like a nice food offering and a good view. I'm an F geek. I want to see planes. I don't want to be in a bunker, because some airlines, they have like lounges. They don't even have windows. It's really hard. I'm not a lounge kind of guy, and I think most of the lounges in the world are terrible. There's no way around it. Like most of the lounges are really, 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 really awful, and you don't really get a great experience there. It's for me a place where I stock up on free water, maybe perhaps, but the food offering on lounges is usually pretty bad, unless you go to a first class lounge. I don't know. You have probably seen a few lounges. Do you have a favorite lounge?
Oh, I used to like Emirates because I used to fly from Dubai, and I'm talking about 6-7 years ago, and it was somewhat, state of the art. I definitely know the lounge which I hate the most, and Egypt. The reason I was in the lounge, and I asked the manager on duty, because people were sitting on the floor. There was forget Wi-Fi, and people were sitting on the floor, and I asked the manager, "Is this the lounge?" And he laughed and he said, "Yes, sir, this is the lounge." So yeah, safe to say, Egypt's lounge didn't impress me a whole lot, but yeah, Emirates would rank right up there. I haven't been in any of the lounges in Changi, but I would assume they'd be pretty world class.
It depends on the country. Like Changi, obviously the first class lounges are out of control. Some of them are amazing. Like I think it's called the Room in Singapore Airlines and Singapore Airlines. Qatar Airways has a nice first class lounge, and but then in some countries, like for example India, like I always make a joke, with your birth certificate you get lounge access in India. Because everybody has their Mastercards, everybody has their lounge key, everyone has their priority pass. You go to a
Everybody
lounge in
has
India.
access to a lounge in India. Everybody. You are nobody
Exactly.
special, because on every card it seems like they give you and it's like you'd rather just pay to not go to the lounge and have a beer in a bar and save yourself the lineup. So
100%. That's what I always think. Like if
I've
you go
been
to a
there.
lounge in
I've been
India,
there.
yeah,
Because when I saw the lineup trying to get into the lounge, and I was like, I will miss my the boarding. So I said forget it. So Josh,
yeah, like I'm surprised. Yeah,
I
yeah,
could
like
go
you
on
get a
and on.
You have a Tesco card and you get into the lounge.
Yeah, but the main difference between me and you is like I'm not an av geek, so for me it's like if they have a live station where the chef is preparing eggs in the morning, that for me is a huge tick. So they're gonna have an open bar, but if they have a live chef, that for me that's a good lounge right there. But yeah, that's just again first world talk, but again. context in mind. So, Josh, as I said, I could go on and on, but you know, in the interest of the podcast, I'll end it over here. Any final words from you, my friend? Everybody knows Josh Cahill, so I don't need to introduce where can somebody find you. But any final words on the podcast?
Be kind to your cabin crew. Be kind to everyone you encounter when you fly an airline, and make life easy for everyone. They're going through rough times post-COVID. And I know that the omelet doesn't taste, or the caviar as good as it might tasted before the pandemic. And a lot of people had a career change, and a lot of people were really good at their jobs and service. They started their own businesses. So we always have to make sure that we take that into consideration. Cabin crew works really hard. Ground staff works really hard, and people try really their best to keep flying. But also, don't get fooled. That's also very important. You spend a lot of money, and you can demand something in return. So in life, it's always about a good balance. But if you're nice and you're considerate and you're reasonable, you will always have a good time. So for everyone who's listening, keep that in mind. And then I can guarantee you, if you walk in the cabin and you say, "Hey, how are you? Your uniform looks beautiful," you upgraded your flight experience a lot. So I think that is something that I wanted to share.
That's Iraqi Airways. I had to end it with that one. So.